All right, so welcome everybody. This is video 3 on our discussion of the book we've been reading, Man's Search for Himself, and this will be the last video. We just broke it down because in this last part, I just wanted to address one section of the book that I really enjoyed, and I just wanted to get some of Ebony's feedback on that as well and share with you guys. And like I said in the last video, this section was called Choosing Oneself. You guys will have to excuse me. We had a little technical difficulties, so my monitor's over here. You will see me looking over here, but I will come back here. Anyway, Ebony, do you remember this section?
You can remind me. The funny thing is the book was over here on the floor. I just put it back. So remind me, please.
Well, this section came right after this section about freedom, personal freedom. And so this section immediately starts off that the only way a person can have true freedom is, well, let me read what it says. Oh, hold on. I increased my page and everything changed. Let me go down. Sorry, give me a second. But anyway, I'll just paraphrase until I find it. But to find true freedom within oneself is you have to be willing to choose yourself. And it's not in a selfish nature. It's just choosing for yourself what your values are and taking personal responsibility for yourself and your life. And understanding that your life and existence while here is very small. It is your, like you said, your responsibility. And so basically it's saying to live your life with purpose. What do you like to add to that? You can go ahead and add on something while I try to find it.
I agree 100%. It's like, so for me, we talked about this in the last video, being a rebel without a cause. It was just that I was rebelling against anything that felt like it was rebelling against me. But then I realized like, oh, but I don't even know who I am and what I value. So like, how am I rebelling against something that's rebelling against me and I don't even know who I am? And so it's a matter of like, okay, so now I have to step aside, figure out who I am, what I value, and take some responsibility for where it is that I want to go in life. And it wasn't until I've dealt with depression like everybody else. I had a lot of negative mental chatter. I had to go and get help. But once I realized, or once I started doing the work to understand who I am and set, down what I value, took responsibility for myself and made it so that my number one priority was my integrity, life just cleared up. I got so much clarity every day. I feel peace. I feel joy. It's because human beings are motivated towards going somewhere. They need to know where they're going, right?
Right.
And when they don't know where they're going, then they're kind of just lost and they're wandering around and they don't have any purpose and they're unhappy because they don't know what they value and if they are walking towards what they value or walking towards their goals and dreams. But the moment you clear that up, life can be exciting again and it becomes, enjoyable again because you know what you value, you know where you're going, so you have the opportunity to just be. Any experience that comes to, challenge or align with what you value, you're instantly aware. It's not a matter of like having in that internal battle of like, should I, shouldn't I? When you know what you value, you go, this does not align with my goals, and so I will not participate. And when you don't know, then it's that constant struggle. So it just clears up so much. It brings so much clarity. It helps you to enjoy the experience that you're having and not always worry about like, oh, where will I end? You already filled it in. You know where you're going. You know where you will end. And so it's just a matter of enjoying the days of getting there, enjoying the journey, basically.
Right. The interesting thing you say that is also what you're saying is like live in the moment, but the chapter also talks specifically also about choosing to live. Because in truth, you could end things at any time. But if you choose to live in the moment in what you have, um, and you find that inner freedom, like you're saying, it's like your values. The chapter later, excuse me, I'm a little scattered, but the chapter later also talks about you having your own personal power to pick your values. And when you do that for yourself and you're not pushed or pulled by, family or tradition or religion, but you actually for yourself have chosen what values to live by, that also allows you to live in general and to live in the moment, and to have that freedom that we've been talking about. And again, in choosing your own values, that again is in a sense choosing yourself. It's not the influence of anyone else. It's what personal convictions you have built for yourself.
Absolutely.
Another interesting part is they also go on to talk about these partial suicides that we commit all the time. And it's basically as us growing and evolving, these parts of ourselves that, die psychologically. And with that, doing that, we kind of take on these new concepts and this new freedom and responsibility for our lives. And we continue to self-actualize as persons. But there's a quote, it says, but we wish only to make clear that there is a positive aspect to partial suicide, and that the dying of one attitude or need may be the other side of the birth of something new. One can choose to kill a neurotic strategy, a dependency, a clinging, and then find that he can choose to live as a freer self.
Right. So that's like a twofold, what you just said, because the first part remind me of like that Tupac quote where he say, death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside while still alive. Never surrender. So then that's just kind of like what's going on in society. We just have a lot of like Walking Dead and zombies where like people are alive, they are existing, but they're not really living. Like where they say living versus existing. Are we just existing? Or are we living? It's like people are existing and is no real purpose to it. It's, they don't know what they value. They're just kind of lost and wandering, and they're just going through the motions doing what is deemed acceptable in society because they don't want to cause conflict with family, friends, society, whatever. So in order to live, I do believe you have to die in the story. And that's the second part of what you're saying, is because if you have an external existence, like if you have been a person who, you know, was center of locus is more external, put it like that, then you care more about, people pleasing, what people said about you, how you look, your status, how you show up, those types of things. That will have to die in order for you to live and have true freedom, because you can't care about what other people are thinking about you or think about how they'll view you over what you view about you or what you think about you. And so in a sense, to get that freedom to, be who you authentically are, you have to die, in the outside world. allow
Yeah.
those, those images and those perspectives and all of the things that you build in the external world to kind of just wither away so you can, show up and rise as your authentic self. And sometimes, depending on how planted you were in your external world, it can really feel like a death. It can really feel like your whole world is crumbling under you, because that's all you ever known. That's all you ever known is, I'm a teacher, I'm a mom, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm this and that. That's how you define your whole life. And so when those things are not going well, then you're just existing. But to live means that you have to transcend all of the things given in society and bring yourself internal to validate yourself, to validate, the experience that you're having. And it feels like a death, because you're no longer the person maneuvering in the world that will be, accepted. You won't be accepted the way you was before the change. Like, people are
Right.
going to treat you differently. And
Right.
so that the person that you was before that is now dead and gone, and people have to think or find new ways to coexist with you, because they're not used to, like, your higher self, or you having that spirit of living versus existing.
Right. And that'll lead me like us right into the last part, and then we'll just have some anecdotal things that we learned on our own and understanding, because I think this is like one of the chapters at like this point of our lives that we would most relate to. But that part is called the courage to be oneself. So not only is it finding yourself and giving yourself the power to do the valuing, after you've done all that, then you have to find the courage to just be yourself and to live as yourself amongst the world, because um, when you do that, there's a strong possibility that it will move you away from the group. Could move you away from the family for whatever you know. And it pushes you out of conformity. And it may have a, possibility of othering you, which could be very scary, which is very scary for most people. We talked about that before, that, people literally die or really do feel like there's a death if they're alone. People have no interest usually in being alone. They want to be a part of this group. They want to be a part of something, you know. And when we were little, we always learned like that structure is like you need food, you need shelter, and then you need people. We
Right.
know that like you need people in order to survive. So in that too, is like you're saying, is doing those tiny deaths to yourself can also be a death to like your inner circle, or maybe the comfortable conformity that you have lived before. And so now it might be a chance that you may be othered, or you just not even othered, you just realize that you can't fit in this space anymore. And so you're left kind of like, where do I go? Because this is all you've known, right?
Mhm.
And so now you have to go out and seek, those other spaces and those other persons. And we know, like, as an adult, it's hard to make friends. Like, the internet and social media has kind of made it easier. But truthfully, as an adult, it's not like going to school and you have, 12 other to 20 other people in your class that you see and play with every day, and you can pick amongst those 12 or 20 people, who you want to be friends with all the time. And it can continue to carry over year after year after year as long as you're in school. When you're an adult, you kind of get put into your own space. So it's either your family, maybe a small group of coworkers, if you even work amongst a group or something, and you don't have a lot of interaction with, a plethora of people anymore. And so now, if you have reached this new understanding and you've gotten new values that are different from maybe the few people who you do interact with, then, where does that leave you? And so, truthfully, you're going to have to find that courage to, even though you have these new values, to live in those new values too.
True.
And
Absolutely.
that was the part I wanted to talk about because, like I said, I think me and you have a lot of experience with that. Uh, uh, as we said, like in other videos, I know that me and you, especially in our community, especially amongst our families, we are triggering. We are troublemakers and possible instigators. Um, we are smart Alex and uh, insubordinate, you know, in aspect, but a lot of that I think has been because of, like you're saying, take the power amongst yourself to, do your own valuing, doing your own personal work on yourself, and just trying to better like understand yourself in the world and how you engage with yourself and the world.
Right, because that's the only real relationship you have. So everything else is just a reflection or an extension of that relationship. And so if you mistreat yourself, then it's no way you can have positive interactions with others. And that's why he's saying, like, you have to have the courage to be yourself in order to have anything worth value in this life, to improve the quality of this life. You have to be more of yourself. You have to show up more as yourself, not as the things that society deem, valuable, but what you deem valuable.
Hmm. Absolutely. And my new life motto is, to live in delusion and ignorant bliss. And not in just that, like, you're not familiar with your background, but it's like you live in your own space and bubble all the time. And I just had a habit for a long time that I just live in my own space and bubble. So I'm not really noticing a lot of like what goes on here, what goes on there, who's looking at me weird or something. Because I'm like, unless you're gonna directly like come up to me and say like, "Hey, you're weird," or "I don't like what you're wearing," or something, I'm just like in my space, just like, it's okay. And so to me, like I live a life with like very little trouble, very little problems. Um, for me, like very little insecurities, unless like, I happen to pass the wrong kind of mirror, and then I'm like, whoa,
Ah, girl,
things are a little out of proportion here. This is not
girl.
how I see me in my mind because again, I live in delusion. So
Well, your physical body is not reality anyway. The idea is reality. So you really look the way you think you look, not the way your physical body look. Just so you know.
I mean, I'm all for that.
The
I'm all for that.
idea is the first creation. This is just a replication of the first creation, and it's not always perfect. You see what I'm saying? The idea
Mhm.
is perfect. The replication is flawed. Just remember that.
Replications. Well, okay.
That's
I
what
know.
three
I'm a
magic words said. That's what three magic words said. I'm just using universal law.
yeah, touche. I mean, like, I get it. I just feel like what we said before, it's better, you might find more personal freedom if you learn to like mind your business. And it's not like just in a sense of like, don't be in other people's business. It's also in the sense of like mind your business, like take care of yourself, stay like in your bubble and like what you're doing. And you don't have to be like self-conscious. Um, because one thing like I can say, and again, maybe it's me, but like you remember this, it was like a long time ago, a mutual friend of ours, we were like joking around and he said something like, "Oh, like, yeah, like, I'm cute or I'm handsome or something." And you looked at him like, "What?" And he was like, "What? I'm cute. My mama said I'm cute. You call my mama a liar?" And then I was like, "Yo, that's it. That's the motto." Like, my dad told me I'm cute. So, that's my number one person who I might value, trust their opinion. I ain't worried about anyone else. So if my dad said I'm cute, I'm cute. That's the end of like, and so like me personally, I personally haven't felt like any real self-consciousness except for like what I personally like like, you know what I'm saying? So if
Mhm.
I walk somewhere and I see something in the mirror, I'm not worried about like, oh, how other people see me. I'm like, oh, that's not how I wanted my outfit to come off. Like I meant to have that tucked in or somewhere,
Mhm.
something like that.
Mhm.
But I just am not, I'm thankful that I'm not in a space to worry at all about anyone's looks, anyone's glares, anyone's opinions of me. I think like I told you, like I have about 3 people who well, now 5 people who opinions I care about. And some of the people might think they're on the list who probably should be, and they're not. So, and we have a very large family, but it's just like, I'm like, if I'm doing the valuing for myself and I just feel like, we don't have the same particular values, then I'm not going to let your perception affect how I perceive myself.
Especially if I don't want your life. I know that
Yeah,
sounds rude. If I don't want your circumstances, your life, your experiences, I can entertain, but I will not like take it in. I will not
mhm,
integrate. I will entertain, but will not integrate.
right, exactly. That made me think of, I think I told you the story, but recently I had an altercation with a very close family member. And I went to see my friend after this altercation to just kind of explain like what was going on and to tell them the conversation. And for me, and I think most people, who get in any kind of altercation or argument with somebody, you usually think you're right, like you're in your stance, you're right.
Mhm.
But me personally, I would say like I so very rarely get in any kind of altercation with a person that I'm like, if I'm in an altercation, like I know that I'm right. Like, because I just let people be themselves until like it's just out of, line. And I felt like things had just gotten out of line. So I went to talk to this friend about the situation I was discussing, and the friend kind of like um said something along the lines of like, oh, the way you said something or the way you did something, like I didn't particularly think like it was, right. And, you seem like, I guess, well, the word they say is a bully. And I was just like, to me, I was just like, from what I explained and the whole situation and this small section that I'm just having to talk to you about, you got that? And I was like, you don't have the emotional maturity for me to even have this conversation with you. So I'm leaving. Like,
And
and
that
it's
in
not
itself is a lesson.
right. And it's not like, people might take that as like an arrogance or something, but no, like to me, like that was the truth. And you are very familiar with the situation. You happen to be firsthand uh to experience that situation with me at that time too. So you know exactly what happened. And I was like, I'm not wrong, for what way I handled it, and I didn't like blow up or something. It was just simply in me expressing like, "Hey, I don't think that's very fair, and I don't think that's like the way you should have handled that." And I think that was like very petty, to say that. But like I said, we're the people who are triggering. We're the people who are insubordinate, especially amongst Black families. You can't talk to anybody elder or something. You can't, correct them about something.
Mm.
Question their authority or their
Did did
evidence.
my did my DNA know that? I don't think my DNA knew that.
Your DNA never knew that.
I don't think it I
And
don't
that's
think
why
it knew.
you've been in trouble all your life. So that's what that is. That's why that's why you about to get a PhD and you still in the principal office. Cause you don't cause you never know. And I'm not mad at you. Cause if you in the principal office, I might not have got signed up either, but I'll sit in the lobby with you and I'll back you up. I was like, yeah,
uh,
she was right. Y'all should let her go.
Listen, I don't invest. If it don't have nothing to do with me, I don't invest. It's not my business. But what you're not going to do is tell me what I'm going to do. Now we are at war. Like, look, I got time today. What? I got time. Not going to do what? Okay. All right. Bet.
I think that's the difference between me and you. Because like when that same situation, like you're loud and I'm quiet. So you're like, at first like you're gonna do it this way, and I'm like, okay. And then when they come up and they're like, okay, push A, and I'm like, sure. B. Why'd you do that? I'm like, I didn't want to push A. And they were like, well, we could have argued about it. Why? Why? I don't need to. I can just do what I want. And it's not like, again, it's not like a rebellious nature or something, but we're talking about in aspects of like personal choice and how you choose to maneuver in your own life. And so, yeah, again, it's like you're going to come and tell me how to do something, but when you tell me whatever and it's not agreeable with my values or myself, you don't live with the consequences.
And that's what I'm going to tell them. That's what I'm going to tell them. I mean, you're more like, I ain't going to say none of that. I'm just going to press B. And I'm more like, listen, we got some words to talk about. Okay, because I want you to understand when I go left, I don't want you to be like, oh, I don't know why. Why did she do that? I don't know why. You need to know why. I need you to thoroughly understand why I did the opposite. Okay. All right.
See, and I think that's the thing too. It's because like now I'm old. I don't want to argue. Like you want to argue.
No, I'm not arguing.
Argue with you.
I'm just gonna tell you, and that's it. I don't got the time. I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna sit there and let you be mad. And here's the thing, I got a short trigger, so like you're mad and I'm over there dancing. So like, don't do it because you'll make me mad. I'll say what I have to say, then I'll do what I want to do, and then I'm back into my space of joy. And then the whole time you pissed off, and you like, well, why is she not mad? And I'm like, I did what I listen, I did my public service. I told you what I was going to do. I followed through. Now I'm back in the present moment. I don't have time for anything else. Like, why would I sit there and stew in that? Like, I don't understand.
And that's what I was saying. I think it's just like me, like, for me personally, I think I got to that space too, because like my voice is small, I cannot yell. So I'm just like, it doesn't serve me to like go back and forth. I'm usually gonna be talked over. So people be like, oh, this and that, whatever. And I'll be like, oh, uh-huh. Now listen. I go, oh, okay. And they be like, yeah, so do this. And I'm like, all right, I ain't gonna do that. But and I'm like, people might see it like, I don't know, like how people would see that. But to me, it's just like, I'm just not gonna argue about it. Like you said your opinion, I listened. I'm not gonna engage because it's not necessary. Or, me, I have a problem with my brain is just fast. So sometimes I may like say something or ask a question that's really triggering, and I'm not trying to do that. It's just like an honest question of like, so why would I do that? Like when you did that, did it work for you and were you happy? So like, okay, so it didn't, but I'm supposed to do that because now it's supposed to work for me and make me happy. Or I'm also supposed to not have this work for me and not be happy, So a lot of times just be like, just let me be quiet, and let me move in my purpose. Like,
so I think this is a good place, a good conversation, like it's leading in a good way, because I think this is the difference, because also I used to do that, right? Just I'm going to do what I want and I'm not even going to engage with you. But there's a main difference between me and you. Like, I'm green giant, almost 6 foot. I tend to be a little thicker. I'm darker skinned. And so like, when I just, before I would explain it, I would go do what I want, and it would piss people off so bad that they want to get revenge. They will go out of their way to try to get revenge because they felt so disrespected. Whereas, you know, you have a soft voice, like you said, you tend to be a little bit, you know, on the smaller side.
Right,
And so, like, you say no, it's no real intimidation with that.
right.
So for me, it's like I learned as a kind of like a defense mechanism, I guess, or just a way of like giving somebody grace, just to give them a little insight of what I'm doing, so they won't be like, oh, that was about me, she trying to spite me, or I'm gonna put her back in line. It's like, oh, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with her values. This is how she maneuvers in these situations. It does not have anything to do with me. Because once people take offense, they try to destroy you, or they try to make it miserable for you. And I just get tired of that. So knowing that my thinking and my movement is so unconventional, I do just show a little grace and go, okay, here's why I'm not going to do that. And here's what I'm going to do and why.
I understand that. I think especially because we have definitely been in the same spaces sometimes. And we've had the exact same stance, but the response may have been different to each person. And so like I will agree with that, like, you know, a lot of times, and maybe like why I feel so comfortable doing that too, because like you're saying, I'm very small compared to you. I'm an average height, thank you. But anyway, so I'm a short woman and I have a small voice. And so like, you know, and in general, like my general demeanor is kind of like happy, you know, goofy or whatever. So I'm very like non-intimidating and unassuming. So like when something like that happens and you're like push A and I push B, they're like, Paris. And they're like, why do you do that? And I was like, I just wanted to push B. Like I just want to do that instead. And they're like, oh my gosh, okay. Well anyway, B's push now. So blah blah blah, you know?
Uh-huh.
So like I agree with you versus like, you know, you like you're saying you're tall, you know, your voice is husky, you got rid of a lot of it, but that Baltimore is still there a little bit, is intimidating. So that gruffness, that roughness. And so yeah, absolutely. I think in the same situation, I've definitely seen that like us side by side, and how like maybe a lot of the like aggression and stuff will like put towards you because maybe like it's, you know, not so kind to put it on the small, you know, little woman over there. But you can take it, right?
Hmm. They don't want to put it on me though. They don't. That's what they
Mm.
don't realize. Like the person that is the easy target is the person who has always been getting it. And they have a boiling point. And you don't know what day it is. Today may be the day that they reach you for your filth. You don't want to do it. So don't do it. I mean, for me, again, I always ask, what am I going to receive? If I don't care about you, I won't even entertain it and just be
Right.
blanking. Like, okay. I don't care though. So back to the present moment. Like,
Yeah, I think I'm still learning about that because like in those certain situations and stuff, right? You know, like you may get pulled into like certain conversations that you're like, this is none of my business or whatever. And I think for you, you have a lot of grace going, oh, okay, you know, I'm like, oh, okay, well, interesting, and going on about your way. And so, like, to me, because you clearly don't care about the conversation, to me, I clearly don't care about the conversation, but I'll still be like, why would you do that? Like, and so now I have an issue because it seems like I'm engaged or, you know, or like, you know, I, you know, have a different opinion. Excuse me, lose my voice. Or I may be like judgmental, and it's like, no, like a lot of times I ask questions because I'm genuinely like wondering, like, what is your mindset? Like, why are you doing that? Like, it's not to judge you. Like, I'm just genuinely wondering, like, how did we get like from there to here? But now I'm like more engaged in this space. And I think that like I need to learn more of that from you, just being like, uh-huh, okay. Like interesting. Well, you know, it was good talking to you and I'm gonna leave, you know.
Because it's an energy exchange. That's what I figured out. That's what I started to realize, like, oh, it's an energy exchange. So if a person is talking to you and it's not enough for you to be authentically like engaged back, then the energy is not, it's not cycling between y'all. It's like a one-way energy. So this person is like excited and they're not getting it back, or vice versa, and it's just not a healthy circumstance to be in. So for me, it's like, all right, if I'm talking to someone and it's not engaging, or it's not where I could be authentically excited and want to engage with the person, then I don't want what I give back to them. Like, I don't want to give anything back if it's not meeting them at their level or at their standard. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not that I'm dismissive of it. It's like, you can come to me and you can talk to me about these, whatever it is that excites you, and I will be engaged in the conversation and what you're saying to me, because I'm a person who's engaged in the present moment. But if I don't have anything to add, I'm okay with going, okay, thank you for that. And just, that's it. Moving on, going back to whatever I was doing present moment. Like, I don't have, like, when a person comes to you, they're seeking something. And if I don't have it, I'm okay going, I don't have it, and sending them on their way, right? But some people, again, because of childhood trauma, all these types of things, they feel guilty about somebody coming to seek something from them and them not being able to satisfy. So they will give anything, even if that's not what the person needs. So the person needs empathy, and you're not in the space of giving it to them. So you may give them sarcasm because you feel like you don't want to leave them with anything. So they're talking to you and you match it with sarcasm, and now the exchange is not beneficial. It becomes toxic for both of you all. So I'd rather just go, okay, give me what you need to give me, and I can hear you. I could be present in the moment. And then I can also be kind enough to send you on your way to the person who can give you what you need. Did that make
I think,
sense?
yes. And
Okay.
that now makes me realize like how, like I end up, I guess, like in some of these spaces, because exactly what you said, when someone comes to talk to me and it's not necessarily, say, like someone really close, I would expect to like engage or open up to me. My initial thing is to listen and ask questions. If I'm very familiar with something, like, sure, like I'll share it with you. But most of the time, like in your like particular situation or thing, like it might not be something I'm familiar with, or it's not necessarily my place to like speak on. So like a lot of times, like I'm just listening and I'll ask questions. And again, it's not to be like nosy or engaging, just like it's questions like to be like, okay, so like what was, like I'm trying to like get like what were you thinking at this moment? Like how did we get here? Like what was the path? And so like I feel like at the same time some of that too is because it's like you come to me and I'm not a yes person, but I'm also not a no person. I'm just like listening, and like for the most part, if you come to me, I'm gonna be engaged. I'm not gonna ignore you. And I will have questions that like it goes, well, oh, this person is like really like engaged like in myself and my person, like in my life and my problem. So like, yeah, like this person is on my side or something. And I get in these situations when I'm just like, I'm like, not to be rude, but I'm just like, I don't know you. You just, told me a story. I listen, I engage. If I could give something to you, it's not, you clearly needed to talk to someone. So I didn't mind being a listening ear, but I personally do not think like, oh, now like we're close and we're good and we're best friends. I just happen to be privy to something about you that I did not know before. And like just this past year, I learned that because that happens a lot to me, that people open up to me, I thought that, oh, well, people were opening up to me, so I was opening up to these people, right? No, like
Mhm.
the people like I was very, very close with that I talk with every day about everything, I hadn't opened up like at all. So if I hadn't opened up to like these people who I, hold the highest amount of trust in, then I'm definitely not opening up or engaging with these people. I'm just in these situations where they're engaged with me, and I'm a person who listens and reciprocates in the conversation. That I go, oh yeah, like yeah, you can totally talk to me, like I'm an open book, and I'm like, no, I'm not. Like at the end of the day, like I know all about you. You know nothing about me,
Me too.
except like what I was willing to tell you. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. People are, allowed to be private persons. It just, like you're saying, made me realize that, like, what to me, I'm guessing, like, again, I feel like me and you, since I would say our very early 20s, late teens, I've noticed that when me and you are in a space, me and you are just fun. Like, we're just ourselves. We don't care about looking stupid. Um, we don't care about what other thinks. We're just like a good time. And so, and I think a lot of that was encouraged because I'm, the younger sibling, so I get more influence from you. But there hasn't been like a lot of like insecurity about just being yourself at all times. And as we've gotten older, we're a lot older now. It's a lot easier now. And so like now I'm getting an understanding of like, hey, when you walk into a space and you're just like comfortable in your authentic self, then I think there is a certain attraction or energy that gives to other people. And so some people go, they're cool, like they're easy. Like, what is that? Like, I want to be around them. Um, and I think like, if you're willing to share a little bit of your life, but we worked on this crazy presentation last night that was supposed to be like very like studious and hoity-toity, and I completely ruined it for you. Well, made it better, I would say. But at the end of everything, like I think of us discussing like that thing of at the end of everyone being like very studious, you know, all this information, just like info dumping, and then you come and you're like, I'm just gonna turn the whole thing up. Yeah, I have information for you, but it's not that serious
Right.
because I'm not that serious.
Right.
And so, like, let's just have fun. Let's just be cool. Let's be ourselves. I don't have any insecurities in this space and about my work. And because I don't have any insecurities in space about my work, and I always come as my authentic self, I can even present this information to you in a way that's engaging and fun and more in line with my personal self.
Right. Right.
Mm.
Well, it just kind of remind me of like, so I'm in CA, which is like Controllers Anonymous. I am a controller. Well, I'm getting better. It's been like 14 years, man. I'm getting better. So one of the things about controlling is you want to control like your internal world, and you want your internal world to kind of like push out to your external world. And so one of the things that me and you kind of talk about is this whole trauma dumping thing, or even just on the opposite side of it is like the attraction of it, like, oh, this person seems like a good time. So even if I don't want to trauma dump on you, I want to use you for the good time. I want to use you for the light, right? And so being an authentic person attracts these people. And it's like, if you're trying to protect your internal world, your external world, and someone comes to you and they're like, oh, I'm going through this and I'm going through that, then as the controller, I'm trying to control my internal, I'm trying to control my external world. You see what I'm saying? And so a lot of that is like, oh, I realized like being a controller comes with you also trying to like problem solve, being a problem solver, trying to save the day. And I found myself, especially in my younger years, when people did that to me because they were attracted to me either because of the light or the trauma, that I wanted to fix it. You know what I'm saying? If it was a trauma thing and they came to me and it was a problem, I wanted to fix it. If it was like, oh, they couldn't generate their own energy, then I'm trying to help them figure out, well, what's wrong that you can't generate your own, that you need to, like, you know, be attracted to others. And so now it's a matter of explicitly, you know, minding my own business, understanding I can't save other people, and that it took so much for me to get my internal world stable that I'm not necessarily sure if people are willing to do the work, you know, to stabilize their own world. So like, what investment am I going to make? Am I going to give them? And so a lot of times now I'm thinking of myself or my energy in terms of like investment. It's an investment. I don't want to, we only have a certain amount of brain space, brain power a day, and I don't want to use it trying to solve someone else's problem or over investing or asking questions or trying to seek understanding that doesn't necessarily pertain to my life. So even the understanding thing, I did that a lot when I was young. I just want to understand people, strangers, even people who will open up. And it's like, why? You're draining your own energy and you're not understanding yourself. So now it's like, I listened to what they told me and I, you know, release them to go and find what they need. And I take that, like, why did this person come to me? What can I learn? What was I supposed to get out of what they said to me? And I can engage in it that way through how can I let this situation help me grow or make me better, as opposed to like trying to deflect it or project it, or not even, I don't want to say deflect or project, or just engage with their issues, like engage with them on their pity party or in their level. It's a matter of like, oh, okay, go and get what you need. And what did I learn from that? How can I take this conversation and grow?
I understand that. I think the interesting thing is like, I think other people would consider it's like maybe people just need a listening ear, and why can't, you know, you be a listening ear for that person, and so on and so forth. And I think there also has to be a matter of discernment. And I think for some people, they may not get engaged as often as you and I might. And so we get engaged like very often. Um, and so sometimes you have to have discernment in that, because I think we've met some people who just enjoy telling their story, even though it may not be like this happy one. Um, you know, the book talks about people taking pride, in a sense, in their woes, because I guess like taking responsibility for that yourself gives you some kind of control for yourself, or also gives you, what they were saying is like, man, it must be something special about me that I have all these problems, you know? And so it's a matter of kind of like rewriting the narrative. And so you meet those people who, like I said, just enjoy telling you their story. Just because it's a badge of honor. And so you sometimes get stuck in that. And so I think, like, again, I was saying, some people go, well, why can't you be like an opening, like listening ear for some people and things like that? It's a matter of discernment, of being like, hey, when I'm going to engage and I understand a person needs this engagement, or maybe a listening ear, versus a person who enjoys retelling the story.
Right. Trauma dumping.
Yeah. You know, or people just enjoy, you know, drama. It's scandalous, and it's sensationalizing. I can't think of the word right now. But you know, you go like, say, at work, and you see this one person telling everyone the same story as a crazy thing that happened yesterday. You know, they're going from person to person to person at work, and they're not close and talk to all those people. But it's interesting to tell that story, right?
Right.
So, that would be a moment of discernment, being okay, like maybe I don't, need to engage in that. And I think that also, like, for people like to understand too, it's a matter of protecting your person. There's some things that, you know, you never realize like what some things might be like kind of hard or triggering or just sits with you for the day. And it happens. And so sometimes you just have to protect your person and just like protecting your space and protecting your mind and kind of keeping yourself even. And you just can't take on that information, for other people. So that too. But I think, we had like an excellent session. I think we're going to wrap up here. I think that's like the best gist of the book. There's so much more information in the book. Literally, like, this is like we're going to end at the last 2/3 of the book, but we don't want to explain everything necessarily for you, just some of the main concepts that, we read, enjoyed, and we hope that it would encourage you to like read it on your own. Like, read it, get your own understanding and your own convictions, about that. And if you have read it, it would be great to also join the conversation and to let us know like what impression you got or like what knowledge was given or like what thing you came to understand about yourself or society of this book. So we really like that. Again, it's called Man's Search for Himself by, who's the author again?
Rollo May.
Rollo May. And it was a book written in 1953 or 59.
I think it was 56.
Yeah, but it's still very relevant today. So I would encourage, people, if you have time, it's a heavy read, but it's it's a good one. It's a powerful one, and if you can just take your time to get through it, I think you will allow yourself beginning of maybe another journey to your own personal growth.
I agree. And Zoom has a sense of humor because it turns you into Alvin the Chipmunk the last like 20 seconds. I mean, 2 minutes of your speech, but yes. So the next book we will be discussing is Dorian.
Good Picture of Dorian Gray.
And we have started that. So we'll see you on our next video, which will be our Nailed It, right?
Yes.
All right. This was Ori, a real discussion. See y'all. Oh, wait, hold up.